Hey there, today we are going to learn one of the most important optimization techniques in React. Whether you are preparing for an interview or working at a company, this technique is used to all the time. As you have probably guessed from the title and thumbnail, we'll be exploring virtualized list in React. But before we dive in, let me show you why it's so important, why do interviewers often ask about it, why is it so commonly used in React projects. I will cover all the key points in this video, so make sure you stick around until the end. First, I will show you two versions of the same implementation. After watching, you will see exactly why virtualized lists matter. We'll start by exploring it practically, and then I will explain a little theory behind it, but don't worry, I will keep it simple. So, alright, let's jump into the example. So in the code, you can see I'm on a app.js page, right? And here I have a two component. One is virtualized list and another one is normal list. So basically, I just want to show the normal list one. Here you can see I have 100,000 items here in the array. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that means 100,000 items in my array, right? So you can think, normally how we render the array of items in our Reactjs. So we do basically normal map, right? We use the map function in JavaScript and map through each items and render it to the UI, right? So here I did the same thing. You can go in the components and normal list.jsx. You can see I received items as a props and I simply use the map functions and I just rendered the items here, right? So here right now the virtualized list is rendering. So let me comment it and uncomment this one normal list. Now if I say, if you just inspect this element, here you can see how slow it is. My local machine also hanging when I reload that. So basically if I go here in the element, see like how much time it is taking, and you can see like here is a 100,000 items it is actually created a DOM here. So here you can see the show all 99,500 more. So here you can see the all items actually showing here. Okay, cool. As you can see, I had to close this tab because I wasn't able to close the inspect tab, and my whole tab is actually completely hang. I wasn't able to do anything, so I had to close this whole tab and commented that normal list component, and I just now rendered the virtualized list here. So my question is, now I'm working with 100,000 items here, right? So typically, what do? We map through the array and display the list in the UI, right? That's how we usually handle it, right? This works fine when the number of items is small. But let's think bigger. When your web application scales and the number of the items grows, just only 100,000 items and our all tab got hanged, we are not able to do anything. It's a serious issue, right? Imagine if your boss sees users struggling to visit the product page smoothly, it wouldn't be a good situation, right? Especially if you're responsible for it, right? But don't worry, we are smart. Now, I will show you a different version where the number of users or items, whether 1 million or 2 million does not matter. Let's see the virtualized list implementation now. Here you can see I have already actually rendered the virtualized list here. And you can see how smooth it is, how smooth our app is running, right? We are just using the virtualized list. So that's why in the very beginning of the video, I have said this is one of the most important React optimization techniques people are used in their daily life frequently because, when we develop an applications, maybe most frequently used we array, right? It is very important to keep in mind how to optimize the product list page or any other things that we want to show in our web applications, right? Okay. Alright, now let's dive into how it works behind the scenes and why it runs so smoothly. This virtualized list one, right? So let's explore about the virtualized list. So virtualized list is a smart technique to make large list load faster. Instead of showing all the items at once, it only shows the ones you can see on the screen. As you can see in our screen, we are showing only 8 items. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Others are not showing in that web page, right? As definition says, it only shows the ones you can see on the screen. So let's verify it once. We can click the inspect tab and we can go to the element and we should be able to see how many items it is actually, showing here. Okay, so here, this is the first one, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, 7 and 8. And you can see this is the 8 one and this is the 9 one. And there is no items are showing here, right? Now let's see one more amazing things. Whenever I'm going to the scroll of the list, you can see how it is actually changing the items. Now you're seeing only same 9 items, but it update the items. And you can see now I'm saying item 687, item 688. That means 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. We are only seeing the 9 items here on the element tab, right? So that means the definition, it declares it's completely true, right? We only seeing the ones we can see on the screen. So now the rest of the items are kept hidden here. As you can see, we are only seeing the 9 items, right? So the rest of the items are kept hidden and not loaded until you need that. So basically, if I want to see the last item, that is at that time, it will only render on the screen and you can see on the UI. It will load it based on your necessity, right? So that's why virtualized list is super smooth and a very famous React optimization techniques that people are frequently used in their daily life. Now you know what a virtualized list is and you have seen a practical example of how it makes our app run super smoothly. Plus you got a bit of technical explanation so you can talk about it confidently in an interview. Cool, lots of stuff. Now let's dive straight into the code. So here you can see I have already created one code sandbox here. So I'll create a new one. So let's go. Just you can write a code sandbox IO. If you don't have account, try to create, sign up and create an account there. And you can create a simply React sandbox here. You can see and you can, give any name. So I can do Frontend. Cool. So you can keep any name. It's up to you. And it will create a sandbox for you with a React environment. Okay, amazing. Our environment is ready with a React. So let's first try to understand how it will work. As I show you here, I had 2 components, right? One is normal list, one is virtualized list. So we don't need to, implement the normal list one. We are just now focusing the virtualized list one. Here in app.jsx, this is our parent component. We imported virtualized list component in the app.jsx file. And here you can see we have passed couple of props here. For example, the items, item height, window height. So what does it mean by the item height? Items, we know this is the array, right? So what does it mean by item height? So item height means this item, for example, if I go to the, first of the item, here, this item 1 is taking 50px. That means this item 1 height is 50px. The window height is this amount, where we are actually rendering all the items, right? So we specified it's a 400, right? Now, if I increase that, for example, the 500, you can see we are showing now that 10 items, right? So our window height is increased to 100px, right? So this is our window height. So this information will pass it from the parent component and will receive it as a props in the virtualized list component, right? So let's focus on the app.jsx file. Let's clean up first, right? Let's clean up. There are a lot of dumb things. Let's clean up. Cool. Okay. Now let's create a directory inside the src directory, which is the components, right? and our file is virtualized list. Virtualize this.jsx. Okay, cool. So const it's a plain React component, functional component. Nothing fancy. We are just, export. Okay. Default virtualized list. Cool. Now we can import this in app.jsx file, right? Cool. As I said, we need to pass a couple of things. For example, items, item height, and window height, right? So let's pass it. Items will be an array. We'll create it within a minute. And item height, that will be 50. It depends, right? We can increase, we can decrease. It's up to us. And window height. For example, we can keep it 400 px. Okay, cool. It is saying, okay, we should not keep it empty object. So let's create. Okay, so here you can see I have created 100,000 arrays using the array.from method, and I just keep it as a item with the item number here. So I used a JavaScript method here, right? So there is nothing to explain. You can if you have idea on a JavaScript, definitely you should be able to do it, right? So items. Cool. So now what we did, we have sent this information as a props to the virtualized list component, right? We should be able to get it, right? Now first, let's define a div so that warning should remove. Okay, so we are expecting to get items and item height and window height. Cool. We can show it there. How many items dot length? How many we are getting there? Okay, cool. 100,000 it is showing, and the same we can check it. Item height 50, window height it's a 400. Cool. So now we can focus to build our virtualized list component, right? Okay. So the second thing that we will focus on, setting up scrolling and calculating item visibility. Here you can see we are not showing all the items together, right? That means we are calculating some kind of things right here. So here now we are focusing two things. We need to add the logic that calculates which items to display based on how far user has scrolled. And also we need to track the scroll positions basically, right? So we need a couple of state. Let's define the state first. Okay. So basically that has to be 0. So we need a ref here. So it will be used to reference the div that contains the list. So basically this will help when attaching an event listener. So let's define a ref here, const. So we'll use this list ref to reference the div that contains all the list. Okay. Now you can see I have added two variables. One is visible item count and another one is total height. So here this visible item count is calculated by dividing window height by item height. So these tell us how many items can fit inside the visible area of the list at once. The total height is the total height of the entire list, even the items not shown. It's calculated by multiplying the number of items by the height of each item. And also we need to calculate the start index, also end index. So basically it will tell us the first item to display. This is done by dividing the scroll top by item height, which gives us the index of the first visible item. And the end index is calculated by adding visible item count to start index and ensure it does not exceed the total number of items. So this tells us the last item to display. Okay, so cool. Let's work on with the JSX part here. As I said, we need to use the list ref, right, to add an event listener. So use this ref now in list, right? Cool. Now here we need to define a couple of styles. Okay, so it is actually showing error for the use state. Let's import use state from React. Cool. Okay, so styles. So here height would be our actually this window height. Cool. With px, right? And overflow, since we need to scroll, so overflow y would be auto, right? And the position should be relative. So why position should be relative, you will get an idea a bit later, because we need to actually use the absolute there whenever we will render the items at that time. So that's why we need to actually specify the position absolute here. So here we will render the items, right? So the item would be the position. Sorry, this would be relative, not absolute. So here when we render the items, at that time we need to add the position absolute, right? So if we put add the position absolute, then we need to add the parent div as a position relative, right? So that's why we added the position relative here. Cool. So let's take another div, right? And here we can specify the height, and here we can actually add this height that has to be total height that we have calculated there, right? So total, okay, we need to add a $sign total height with px. Cool. Now we need to add a function here. We can write a JSX here, but I would love to declare a functions here. So what we can do, we can create a function called comments display items. That has to be a function, right? So this display item, we'll call it here display item. It's a function, right? Cool. useref is not defined, so let's define it. Okay, cool. We are not seeing anything, but we can see this is this is scroll here. That means it is actually applied the styles here, right? So let's focus on the display item here. So the goal is this display item function generates only the visible items from start index to end index, and each item should be absolutely positioned, right? So let's start implementing the display items actually. Okay, so I take an array which is the visible items. It will contain all the visible items here. So here I have added a just for loop, nothing else, just for loop. So what it is doing, it is actually going through from start index to the end index, right? Here you can see we are getting the items, so we are keeping it here const item. Now we have added couple of styles here. As I said, our item should be absolutely positioned, right? So you can see we added the position, actually the absolute, and the top and the height. You can see I use the item height here. So why we use the top actually item height here, right? So see, whenever we are scrolling through, right? So we need to calculate the position, right? So for example, if I scroll through, I need to see here. If I go here, for example, I'm on a top positions right here, item 1. So if I do the scroll bottom, so I need to position this item 1 in a proper places, right? I need to show the updated item here, right? So if I do the scroll, and you can see these items are now actually if I try to show you how things are working here, this is styles basically. See, you can see the top is now calculated is now it's up 56,950, right? So this is the proper places that this item will show. So that's why I need to add the top here with the item height, and it is actually properly calculated, right? And it's a tightly positioned here. Cool. Now here, this is the visible item dot push. We are actually pushing these things here in this here visible items, and now we need to return these visible items from here. So what we can do, we can return. Okay, So we have written the visible items from here. Now we can see the list. Cool, right? But here you can see one problem here. Once we go to the bottom, right, now we are not seeing the actually the latest item, right? We are seeing the first couple of items, that's okay. That's fine. But when we are going to the bottom of the div, we are not seeing the proper element here, right? So for that, we need to add a onScroll function that updates scroll top whenever user scrolls. So this is a crucial because the component needs to know where the user is in the list. As you can see, when I'm going to the bottom of the div, our scroll top is not updating, right? And we are not seeing the updated items. So we need to add this onScroll function. So let's add it. Now here in onScroll, we use callback for the onScroll function to ensure it does not get recreated on every render. So this improves performance since onScroll function remains stable and does not cause unnecessary re-renders, right? So we are basically updating the state of scroll top. Here you can see event.target.scroll top, right? Cool. So we need to bring the use callback, but if you notice, it will still not work. We need to use a use effect hook here. So let's add it. And here you can see we have used the use effect to end the scroll event listener when the component mounts and clean it up when the component unmounts, right? So here you can see we have got the list app.current, right? Whenever it is present list item, we are actually doing the scroll event. We are calling the onScroll functions here, right? So basically this, whenever it gets the scroll event listener, it is actually calling the onScroll functions, right? When it mounts, right? When it unmounts, we need to clean up it, right? So that's why actually you can see the return function here, return callback function. So whenever component will unmount, we are actually cleaning up, right? So basically this is the things. This is the whole implementation. Now if we go below, and you can see our app is running super smoothly, and we are not actually render all the items together. We are rendering the item based on the user scroll, or we could say based on the user necessity, right? And if you do the inspect element, you can see only 9 or 10 items is showing, right? And it also the customizable. You can change the height from here. You can see the items based on the window height, right? And you can increase the item height too. And that's it actually. So this approach allows the component to handle large dataset smoothly without performance issue. So that's it for now. If you find this video is helpful, please don't forget to subscribe my channel and don't forget to like this video. Thank you. I'll see you in the next one.